son, you got a panty on your head.
All right, it's come down to it. It is time to do some major upgrades. I'll call it major upgrades. For me, not being a mechanic, this is a big leap for me to do. I think it's fairly straightforward. I've read through the manual several times, watched several YouTube videos, and I don't think it's going to be extremely hard, but it's one of these things that you don't want to mess up. So we will be taking our time. This will be broken up into 2 videos, and we'll get as much detail as we can, and then I'll explain after the video all of the things that we encountered, or I encountered, as I was installing this. So let's do a inventory list first and the tools that we're going to need. And because I am doing 2 projects kind of at the same time, I kind of made just a rough checklist of things to do, because I had to do part of an upgrade to do the other upgrade and then finish it. So I mean, I know this sounds silly, but I went ahead and just made a real quick checklist, like, okay, warm up the oil, drain the oil, remove filter, install standard filter. And I've already added the oil and checked for leaks, so I don't have to worry about that being an issue from just a standard oil change. So next, we're gonna move the air assembly and get ready to do the Banks cold air intake install. Let's start off, I highly recommend downloading the instructions, printing them out for your specific model, so it gives you all the details, and it's something that you can almost use as a checklist. And speaking of checklist, let's talk about the tools required. So, obviously some sockets, a T30. I didn't have a specific tool, but I did have this Torx wrench, different screwdrivers, so you need some Phillips and a flathead, and it says 5/16 inch nut driver, power drill just to kind of speed things up when I can. All right, first thing to do, we're going to remove these connectors. This one here has a little pin on it, so let's grab a screwdriver. So let's take that off. Okay, and then this one here has a little all right, it's like there's a grommet right here. Need to pull that out. Man, that was tough. Whew. All right, let's get you out of the way. Let's just see how dirty this thing is. Oh, not really bad at all. That's pretty clean. I'll have to check and see when was the last time I replaced this. Lift the air housing up and partially out of the engine compartment to gain access to the actuator connector on the side. So that's over here. The connector also has one of those rigid stems in there. And honestly, it looks like it's just tie wrapped on. It is. So add some of these to your list and just snip that cable tie off. There we go. All right, here's that sucker. And what I did for that, to pull that connector off for the this connector right here, this is for the actuator. I just took a screwdriver and just wedged it in between there and just pushed, and it popped right out. Onto the tubing here. Man, that is tight. Woo, doggy. All right, first thing I'm gonna have to do is get that stupid clamp off there. And wow. Okay, well my battery died on me, but let me show you what I got done. So I was able to get the hose off right down here. Trying to get as much light as I can on there. And I had to just kind of twist it around. But what I did is I took these little vice grips like this and clamped and held onto it, and that allowed me to get a good grip and keep a grip on that clamp. And then I just wiggled it, got it off there. All right, loosen this right down here, if I can see it myself, right there on the turbo, and then this whole assembly should just slide right out. All right. Okay, I kind of cheated, but let me show you what I did. So I thought, you know what? Since it was a 5/16 inch socket up top, I bet you it's a 5/16 socket down below. Not socket, but nut head. And I'm not the nut head. Thank you very much. Anyway, I just put a servo extension on, and it loosened right up. Now, I will say, it wasn't very tight. So I don't know if those are supposed to be really tight or not. Okay, so the assembly came out actually pretty easy. And I'm just kind of doing a visual inspection here, and everything looks good. I don't see any issues. Our next step is to remove the actual actuator. And this is where the Torx comes in. So we'll remove this, but before we do that, I'm going to put on my shower cap. So what I've done, and what I want to show you is, because I'm going to be doing other tasks before I put the assembly back on, I wanted to cover the turbo inlet as much as possible to keep, you know, any kind of debris, dust, whatever, from getting in. Okay, next step is to remove the door assembly right here off of the actuator motor right here. Instead to do that, now that I've loosened all the screws, just simply pry with the flat blade screwdriver. So that's what we're going to do. You know what I might try? This. Let's see if this will fit in there. Okay, so that did come off. There's the motor, and you'll notice that it has a flat side to it. That's the key for the little door inside there. So let's go ahead and get the door out, and next, to do that, you have to pry it off and not break it, especially if you want to ever reuse this box, because none of this gets used. The only thing that gets used is this right here. And the thing to do is to grab this right here and pry off without breaking the arm. And that popped right out. And it really wasn't hard. I didn't have to force anything. And that's where the actuator motor will be oriented into this. Okay, now it is time to take these sensors off and then install them onto the new enclosure. Just kind of have to wiggle it out. This is the air intake temperature sensor. Very gently pry. There we go. So actually we're getting ready to install the active motor into the Banks housing. All right, now the fun stuff. Okay, so next it's time to mount the assembly here along with this. So we need to get it kind of fitted in here first. I think the flat side, yeah. So there's the flat side right here. And here is the flat side of the paddle. So that's how it's going to go. The orientation of this is like this. So that's good. That shows it in the closed position. All right, that went right on. And it doesn't matter if it seals. It's not supposed to seal in there. All right, and there it is. All right, remove the sensors from the stock intake using a 7mm socket. There we go. And replace the mass airflow sensor O-ring. Install these sensors in the Banks intake tubing. Banks intake tubing. All right, so this is obviously the air sensor, air temperature sensor. It goes like that. And then this one will go, don't lose the screws, Dave. Looks like it's gonna go this direction. Yeah, I don't think it can go in the wrong direction. The holes won't line up. All right, let's get the O-rings out. Nice do O-ring. All right, let's try a little thin screwdriver blade. See if I can just kind of pop that sucker out of there. Get a start. Oops. There we go. Roll that out. There's the new one. Thank you, Mr. Banks. All right, let's put that one on first. Intake tube uses supplied screws and Phillips screwdriver. So, do not use the old ones. And this is why it's important to read the instructions carefully. I have read through these, and if I tried to just wing this, you know, up front, I would have possibly tried to put those old screws in place and would have run those threads. So, read the manual. Okay, we won't tighten them down just yet. Make sure they both thread in properly. All right, just snug that down. I had put some blue Loctite on it. I already had some, so I didn't open up what they gave me. All righty. That's gonna go like that. Okay, just finger tight for the moment. Now we are going to install the filter into the housing, ensure that it's completely inserted into the housing. All right. This is the one I'm actually talking about, because that's the one that's going to go on the turbo side. This one here may not matter. Okay. Wow. This is not a job for the faint of heart. Let me tell you what I did versus what the manual says to do. So I was fighting this, getting this assembly in to this area and getting that rubber boot to mount over the inlet of the turbo. And so what I finally did was I took it all back out, and I took the boot and put the boot on first and tightened it down to the turbo, and then left the other ring, the second ring here, loose, of course, so that, let me get some light here. We're trying to get some light here. Okay. So the second ring, which mounts to the Banks tubing, I left it loose, and then I fitted it in without this housing just to see how it was going to align. and then I put the housing back on and then put it all back in. So this, which goes right here, right down here, and right there, it was giving me all kinds of fits, and it was interfering, I think, with it fitting onto the sleeve of the turbo. So I just took it off, and I think you can manhandle it. There's enough room down there to put it on that way. That's my opinion. I'm gonna run it by Mr. Banks and see what they think. The end result's the same, at least I guess. And we're almost done. So apologize for not giving you video of me putting this in, but you probably would not have wanted to seen me. I mean, I was sweating and throwing a fit. So I'm gonna get this put on. If I have to trim it, I'll let you know. Otherwise, when I get back, we'll be starting this thing up and we'll be checking the oil for leaks. All right, I'm gonna try to get you guys in close, but that did go in. I did not have to trim it. It was, sorry, my little light here. All you have to do is just kind of manhandle the hose, kind of bend it a little bit. Now I'm gonna put the clamps on, and I'm done with this install. I already put the bolt back in. This is done. Now I'm going to ask them, how in the world do you change this filter? Success. I can't find any leaks. Like I said, I finally got this on. This was a pain in the butt to get on. Actually, the whole job was just, both jobs were really, really hard. It's doable, but I would caution you, if you've never done anything mechanical, to seek somebody's help on this, because I mean, I'm not a mechanic, but you know, it was difficult. I mean, my arms are all cut up. I mean, look at that. It's just, I'm all cut up, and but okay, so lessons learned. Follow the instructions the best you can, but don't be afraid to adapt. So for example, I adapted to the boot that went onto the turbo, and I had to put the boot on first on the turbo itself, and then slide the tubing on. That was the only way I was gonna get it reasonably done. And the PVC tube, it did fit. It was cut the length, so don't put it on per the instructions. Just wait till you get everything mounted first. That is my advice. Now, let me show you some stuff. You know, one of the things I was concerned about were error codes. I didn't see anything, and I got no errors after changing the mass airflow sensor and the air temperature sensor, or the valve thing that turns the actuator. So no error codes. So I will come back with a summary of everything, and maybe, you know, put a couple hundred miles on it, make sure nothing has rattled loose. So far, so good. All right. If you have any questions on this, and I hope you do, please feel free to send me a comment down below, and make sure you can share this with your friends and or somebody that may enjoy this video. All right, so from the RV Wagon Tales Corporate Studios, we'll talk to you soon.